And they was try to think, my mother and dad were so restrictive about reading. Don't read. I mean, nothing would make them angrier if they came in the house and found me reading. So I learned to deceive them. I would put my book under the chair as fast as I could when I saw them coming. I would grab a broom and I would get up and start sweeping it. This is the truth, the honest to God truth. And then they would come in.
Wait a second. I don't want to hear lightning bolts coming down through the ceiling.
She's sweeping. She's not reading. See, they realized that God only knows what was going to happen if they continued to let me read.
Our little girl is playing like Cinderella. Get your ass over there and start sweeping.
And when I went away to school, my aunt, she was absolutely shocked when I would bring home at least 7 books from the library, and I would proceed to read one a day, and she'd say, please, you need to be a pet girl. That's what girls do in high school. They're pet girls. I'd say, pet girls, what's that?
Oh, those are the ones that couldn't make cheerleading squad, right?
Oh, right.
That's right. You're a lousy cheerleader, but you can go get a pom bomb and just
shake it. And you shake it. My aunt was so terrified when she found out that I had the reading disease, the worst case she'd hardly ever seen. They were every one of them were dedicated, devoted, tried to stop her. Don't let her do that,
Well, the only thing they basically did stop you from doing was singing in the choir.
Oh, yeah. But you see what
folks,
can happen.
If anybody had watched this and have seen karaoke, you know why she didn't make it in the choir.
Yeah. Well, see,
they
reading,
put her in a pep
they wonder, they say, reading, for heaven's sake. Nobody reads. That's because there's been a concentrated effort to stop people from reading. Don't you know that? Mothers and dads, everybody say, stop that child from reading. And, telling them, do anything. That's what my mother and dad used to do. Anything rather than read. I would not be punished if I just had a book, if I just had a broom in my hand instead, if I had a dust cloth, anything but read.
Well, can I ask you one question here? Have you ever seen a guy on a horse, a cowboy, reading a book? Now, if I owned a ranch, like your father, and there was a cowboy sitting on a horse reading a book, I'd say, what the F you are you doing? You're supposed to be out there watching the cows. If I want somebody to read, I got a daughter at home that does that. I don't need this. Now you get on that damn horse and get the hell out of here.
Everybody was
forbidden.
If I see
you with a book again, it better be
everybody
porno.
was forbidden to read. And this is, this has been the idea that has been prevailing in this country is if you read...
How do you know about this country?
That's why nobody reads. There's been
Utah.
a concentrated effort to stop children from reading. This is a waste of time. This is dangerous. You don't read. You just don't read.
Hell, I was reading since I was 5 years old.
I know. Yeah, but
I know.
Were you ever were? I know, but he soon found a way. This is the way that he learned to stop reading, and that was to take up drinking instead. Because he found out that if he drank enough, he wouldn't be able to concentrate. So when he tried to read, it was useless. He couldn't.
That's
he
true.
Couldn't tell.
Because when I came home from kindergarten, my mother was in the other room. I went immediately to the refrigerator, popped open one of my dad's beers, and just, put it in a little paper cup.
You could hardly wait. You could hardly
wait. Went down
wait.
to the basement and just sat there and I read.
And my dad was drinking, and when he was 10 years old, I'm sure he was drinking plenty of beer when he was 10. This was considered to be by his parents to be preferable
6 and 7
to a boy reading books. This was one of the worst things that a boy could be caught doing, is reading books, or a girl. And so, books were really the bane of parents' existence. They were a waste of time. They caused the children not to be getting busy doing all the chores that need to be done.
What did I just say? You get a cowboy sitting on a horse reading a book, he ain't worth anything to anybody, right?
No. My grandfather probably whipped his boys for reading.
What do you mean? He carried a bullwhip with him at all times.
Whip! Hey, I'll teach you to read. I'll teach you to do that. I'll teach. And, so if you look into it, you'll find out that there's been parents, there's been teachers, actually, all kinds of people that have discouraged this child from reading, so that reading has become the outlawed activity. Like, for example, in this place, I don't ever see people bringing their books home from the library, reading them. They can cover them up, they can put them in sacks. Nobody needs to know their books.
What do you mean?
You
What
can
do you
hide
mean
the fact that you're
place?
carrying books around.
This place?
You have to, yeah. You can put them in sacks and act like you came from the grocery store, or the beer.
See, what I do, folks, is I have this backpack, okay?
The backpack is perfect
I go over
for
to the
books.
Circle K, I put in 12 beers in the backpack, carry the backpack back, and nobody knows there's beer in there. Yeah, right.
Right. Listen, beer is absolutely, everybody goes to the Circle K and gets beer. Now that is acceptable. If he was going up the library
let me
and
see.
you were bringing back a backpack full of books, oh my God.
I must be sick because I can make 2 trips and just carry one book.
Sick. Yeah.
I never carried more than 2 books at the library. Well, what's...
Yeah, well, me.
Listen, when you're in a...
I've got two big sacks that I carry my books in, and I'm one of the few people around here that is actually brave enough to walk around carrying books.
I tell you, one of these days...
I am actually brave enough to do that.
You're going to get mugged, and you're going to find out there's nothing but books in it, and then they'll really get you.
Yeah, they'll say, oh, I know what she is. She's one of those dangerous people that reads books.
Where's your money? I don't have any money. I just have library books.
And these poor people who've been going to, with their backpacks, you'll look in them. You'll find out what's in there. Beer. Loads of beer.
Not necessarily.
What?
There's
You'll never find books, I'll tell you
beer,
that.
baby.
You'll never find books in there, I'll tell you that. If you examined 300 backpacks, you would not find books in, I would say, hardly any of them. So I am unusual here because I know how to get by with reading. I know how. It's a dangerous thing to be doing, but I know how to get by doing it.
I'm a dangerous guy. You know that.
Yeah.
See, if you'd ever got this, you'd ever got this other 40 minutes
I could
that
only
you decided
persuade
to delete.
him. See,
she knows I'm a bad man.
You know why he's drinking? To belong to the society that he lives in. He wants to belong in here.
I don't want to.
Yes, you do. You want to be accepted. And you know that you'll be accepted. He'll be accepted a lot better if he goes to Circle K, brings home his beer. People see it, they'll say, "Oh, he's just like the rest of us. He's a drunk." He's accepted, and you've always wanted acceptance.
Listen to this.
He's always wanted acceptance.
This is one of my favorite jokes. It's this crab and this lobster. The crab is the guy, and the lobster is the female. They want to get married. I guess that doesn't seem right. The crab is kind of always, like going to the left and the lobster is going to the right. Oh, well, we'll make it out, So, the wedding ceremony is ready to start, and the lobster is walking down right next to him, and the crab's walking right down next to her. And the guy says, "You know what? That crab is really drunk on his ass." Get it? The crab's walking straight.
He's not walking crooked.
Well, that's right. Crabs always walk sideways.
Believe me, I'm telling you this because I know it to be true. This man is doing what he's doing, drinking, because he wants to be accepted so bad. He's afraid not to be accepted. And I'm telling him, he's 74 years old. He doesn't have to worry anymore about being accepted.
Don't
he can be just as intellectual as you're capable of being.
I just passed 73 by a month or two, okay? Don't think you pushing.
He can be just as intellectual.
I can make it to 74.
He found out when he was a little kid that, he had an unusual brain, and everyone was very alarmed. They didn't know what to do with him.
Wait.
They didn't know how they were going to normalize him, keep him from advancing, standing out, and asking questions. He was put in a room by himself because he asked too many questions. And he knew that
Well,
was bad. It was very bad to be
wait a minute.
curious.
That was when I was valedictorian in the 8th grade, and I had to study the stupid speech that my teacher made for me.
As if he couldn't make one himself. They didn't want you to make it. It would have probably been too revolutionary. They said, we can't let him do the thinking. We're going to have to think for him, see? And, they found out that he had this remarkable brain, and his mother and dad were in a panic all the time. What can we do? What can we do with this child? And so he became very frightened of his own brain. That's why he keeps it in a stupor. He's afraid.
No, I keep it in a glass, folks. I keep it in a glass.
It's in a glass. His brain will wake up if he doesn't watch out. If he doesn't keep it properly in a state of unused. He can't use it when it's like this, and therefore get himself in terrible, terrible trouble. Thinking, he was always in trouble when he was younger. With his his giant brain, they were always trying to think how they could stop him. You know that.
No,
They said, we have this unusual kid. Where his brain came from, we have no idea, but we didn't want it, and we've got to figure out a way
to
diffuse him.
We had
normalize
this maple tree in the backyard that had 4 forks coming out of it. I built this gigantic tree house in it, And my mother's always talking to my dad, Fred, that looks so crappy. I mean, it looks so terrible. It looks so, it just, he gets the lumber and he's putting it together, and finally Fred, he's got to take that down. So I tore it down and built one on the ground. Fred, he's got to stop doing this. So finally went to the neighbors, and the lot we in next door. I built it underground. I built it, dug it, put it on the ground, and then when it had a big rainstorm, and the lid fell in. So then I built it back behind the garage so Mother couldn't see it, right? Out of sight, out of mind. Yes, all right. I guess that's why I was going to be an architect. I don't know.
Yes, oh yeah, yes. It's frightening. It was frightening when you get a child like that. I know, because I was a child like that. And my parents, everybody was frightened to death all the time about what I was going to do.
I'm frightened right now what you're going to do, If you decide to go and start doing dishes here, I know I'm in serious trouble. I'm going to put the knives and the cutlery away, folks. One more reason why a man should never have a loaded gun in his apartment. Why he should never even own a gun. So, a high IQ is not to be desired. If parents get the terrible news that their child has an unusually high IQ, and it's time to go into mourning, it's time to really start thinking, how can we diffuse this child? Get him so he's like everybody else, so he don't call attention to himself and to us. It's dangerous to have a child like that. We have got to do something. Not your child.
Well,
my mother.
Well,
even though you're old enough to be my mother.
This is what my mother and dad were constantly trying to do. Is my mother, she became so aggravated with it, she said, well, whip her every day. Whip her and see if we can suppress this coming.
I'll tell you what, my mother would say to me, you just wait till Dad gets home. What did I do? Well, you've been listening to the radio for too long, and you won't read.
What? Oh,
yeah.
Read.
And so we had this great big radio. Yes, I'm gonna have to take a tube out too, so I'm gonna go to work because
you can't listen to.
You can't listen to radio.
Well, me, there's this campaign, campaign all the time, not to stop the reading. If we can just stop the reading, and we can maybe contain her. When I went to college, I told my dad I'm going to be a writer. He just had a fit. She wants to be a writer. A writer. No, you can't be a writer. You could be a school teacher, or you can be like your aunts, or your aunts, and he didn't say aunts, he said aunt. And or you can be a secretary, a writer. Oh,
Wait a minute.
that's just
Who's ever heard of aunts in your pants, right? It's ants in your pants, right?
yeah.
So there again, that's right.
Yeah.
It was ants. It's not all.
You cannot be, and I said, why not be a writer? Look, I'm very smart. I read all kinds of books. I can write.
But you've proved otherwise. over the
And,
years.
you know, oh, I have not. I have proved beyond a shadow of doubt that I had all the makings of a writer, all the makings of it. And people constantly trying to stop me my whole life. No. Just, that's unordinary. We want just, don't get above yourself.
Does anybody that sees this thinks that we've scripted this?
And I had the brains, I had the talent, I had the capacity to be a writer. But everybody was always trying to stop me. They're determined to stop me. Even if they had to kill me, they was determined to stop me. I've had people try to kill me. Oh, you think you're so smart? Well, take this. No, it started with my mom. We'll whip her every day. It's just...
Folks, I drink. This woman, can you imagine this woman drinking? The only thing I can tell you is that
I knew
young women who don't
I
drink,
wasn't ever
you give them
going
two
to drink.
drinks, and all you want to do is go to bed or go to sleep.
And I was never going to drink because that's bad for a writer. I was going to do everything possible
Have you
to
seen
be a writer
writers
because
that didn't drink?
not me. Because I had unusual.
Successful writers.
I
that didn't
had
drink.
people trying to stop me from being a writer all the time. So that meant that I had to train to be a writer. I had to not drink. I had to do everything because I had to be cunning. I had to be absolutely cunning in order to do this. I'm afraid our camera
No, don't worry about it.
may be stopping, but I'm trying to get across that when people are faced with a child who has an unusual capacity, they try to stop it. They try to impede progress. They try to keep that child from going in the direction that it looks like that they could go. In other words, if you had a rocket scientist or you had a great physicist,
How do you know you don't have one
don't
of
let
those?
that child do that.
You just have to
Don't.
go into and learn different things and learn different situations, and that's it.
Oh,
It's
I was in a
complicated.
capacity where I wasn't going to learn anything. It was thought to be better not to learn anything. So anyway, I'm about to wind down, so I can't keep on this forever, but my point is, most of the time,
See, now there you go. You're back
Yeah.
on again.
Most
See, now,
of the time-
most of the points, well, sweetie, folk, is that we've been doing this for 5 years, and we're just grinding it down into the fine point that now that if we can go back and write this, and transcribe it, and have two other people do this, now that might be a very interesting play. But as it is, they would lose all of the spontaneity and all of the fact that I'm really seriously going to punch this broad in the mouth. Happy New Year!
well, that's the only reason why
right
he don't.
in the mouth.
That's why he don't doubt me, because he had the same problem when he was growing up. As
I never belted anybody.
no,
in
oh
my
well, I
life.
know you were trying
Until
to be.
This could be a whole new year, man.
See, when
Bam.
parents who not used to or who didn't really ask for it get a very smart child, they don't know what to do with her. They absolutely don't.
Well, they
They
obviously
just
put you
can't
away,
keep
didn't
it.
they?
Yeah. Well, I ended up in a mental hospital. Well, that's what's wrong with her. Anything other than be able to. There was no room for me to be talented, to be a thinker. They just couldn't bring themselves to endorse that, to want it, to say yes. It was like I was dragging them along with me. I was saying, well, come on, guys. I know I used to think that. I thought Mother and Dad kind of got together. Well, I'm smart, he's smart. We'll have smart children. And when he had a smart child, they didn't like that smart child at all. We don't like
I need to
this
be
child.
bring this up.
This child is giving us a lot of
Folks,
trouble.
we don't get a chance to pick our parents. If we did, they would both be beautiful, both be intelligent, and both be independently wealthy, and put out of you about $1 million trust fund by the time you were born. Now that's my kind of parents. You know?
Yeah, right.
Fortunately, we don't hit that choice, you know.
Right. I mean, you might get some
Let me
parents.
just interject this for a minute. You get two rather plain-looking people, and not very intelligent. They get together, and usually they'll produce average, plain-looking children. But every once in a while, they might get somebody who is intelligent, but not very good-looking, or they might get somebody who's very good-looking, who is, hello.
Yeah.
Now don't be pointing that thumb at me. I don't appreciate it.
Well,
But
look what
But
your
most of
parents
the time-
did.
Well, no,
Well, your
my
parents
parents were
not
good-looking.
even. Yeah, but they weren't even educated.
Well, no, that's not true. They went to school.
Well, they went to school, but they didn't go to college, and they ended up
They
with
didn't
this.
go to high school.
Yeah, but
What
they
are you
got a
talking
very
about?
smart child, and that was confounding them. And a talented child, and a good-looking child.
Confounded shit out of me for years.
And
Get it? What's going on?
His parents were a lot like my parents.
No,
they
they weren't even
any
anything like
idea.
your
Well,
parents.
in the sense that they didn't have any idea what to do with you.
Yes, they did.
What was that? Hold you down, suppress you.
Work.
Yeah, work. Go to work. And this was despite the fact that he had the talent to be almost anything, especially a thinker. And his parents did not
Thinking doesn't do you
know.
any good unless you're
Oh
doing
yeah,
drinking.
that's what his parents told him.
Thinking and drinking.
Yeah, his dad just had an ordinary sales job. He wasn't a brilliant guy. And when he had this brilliant son, he didn't know what to do with him. He had the slightest idea what to do with him.
Yes, he did.
What was that?
Keep me alive.
That was all.
That's
He
right.
kept you alive.
He's 40 years old. His chances of having another kid are like zip.
Yeah, so he kept him in a. I say that now is the seeds of his drinking is right there. He was not nurtured. He was not
I was
valued and
nurtured.
told
What are you
that he
talking about?
was.
I had two mothers.
Yeah, but somewhere along the way, you were not. Your brains were not valued, so that you would take care of them, so you wouldn't.
I've been taking care of my whole
let
life.
them get corrupted.
You think I didn't work
See, when
my
I
way down
say
here?
when I say that you're wasted, you took your brains and wasted them. You're doing it right now. You're saying, what's